And if she wins... Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey, and we're about to get very, very nerdy with my July haul. So in July, I did a lot of things. I had a lot of pre-orders, I guess, come in. No, I just did a lot of shopping. I went in clumps like I usually do. But we do have a good amount of subscription boxes to talk about today, and some fun things that you've already seen, and I've definitely already read as of filming this, so that is exciting. So, let's just dive in. The first 4 books that I'm going to talk about you have already seen, because I bought them at the very beginning of the month, and read them throughout the month for my cover by vlog. So the first one of those was the first volume of Catch These Hands, and this is by Murata. I will leave that video linked up above and down below if you'd like to check out my in-depth thoughts on all of these, as well as my wrap-up. But basically this one follows 2 rivals from high school. We've got Take Bay and Sora Mori, and they, like I said, were rivals. The word that they use in here is delinquents, but they just did a lot of fighting, and they kind of meet up in present day, and Sora Mori is the one who basically challenges Take Bay to another fight, and if Sora Mori wins, then Take Bay has to go out with her, and so it's kind of a relationship of sorts. But this is the first of, I believe there are only 4 volumes, although I can't seem to find anything except for the first 2. So I'm thinking the first 2 are the only ones that are translated as of right now. Not 100% sure on that. But honestly, it was the title. The title is what grabbed my attention. And it just sounded really funny. But I love a good manga. So that was the first one I picked up. And then the next one I picked up was the Siren of Sussex, and this is by Mimi Matthews. This is the first in the Bells of London series. There is only 1 out as of right now, but the second one in the series is going to be coming out in October. So, read this just in time. This is a fun historical romance that's good for people who are not into smutty historical romances, but want all those romance kind of vibes. This one follows Evelyn Maltravers, who understands that she basically has come to the city, to London, to get a husband, but she knows that she is not going to get one the conventional way of going to balls. She's kind of a wallflower, but she's really, really good at riding a horse, and so she's this is how I'm going to get them. So she basically goes and finds this guy who makes these really beautiful writing habits, and his name is Ahmed Malik, and he is half English, half Indian. And so it's the 2 of them and their relationship as he's creating all of these beautiful designs for her and beautiful pieces for her in a London that is not as well, is very much not about diversity, and the fact that he looks different is a big no-no. So it's the 2 of them and their budding relationship, as well as watching Evelyn kind of come into her own. So I picked that one up because of the beautiful illustrated cover. They get me every time. Just like with the next one, which is The Murder of Mr Wickham by Claudia Gray. This is again one that drew me in based on this beautiful illustrated cover, but this is exactly what it sounds like. This is a murder mystery following characters from Jane Austen's books. Every single book that Jane Austen wrote is represented in this story, but the idea of this is that Emma and Mr. Knightley, who are the 2 main characters from Emma, basically have a summer party and invite a bunch of people, and all of the couples from the main stories come. And then shows up Mr. Wickham, and he not only just knows the Darcy family, he knows a lot of the other people as well, including Emma and Mr. Knightley. And so he's there annoying people for a few days, and then one day he shows up dead, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And the 2 people who are really working the case is Jonathan Darcy, who is the son of Lizzie and Mr. Darcy, and then we've also got Juliet Tilney, who is the daughter of the main couple from Northanger Abbey, and it's the 2 of them trying to figure out kind of what's going on. So I mean, I would have picked this up on the title, honestly, but the beautiful illustrated cover definitely drew me in. And then the last book is this beautiful one, which is The Vanished Queen by Elizabeth Campbell. Now, I will say, I did DNF this book, so I'm not going to stay in my collection for very long, but I did pick it up for this video because of the beautiful kind of sunset sky we've got here. But this is kind of a like dystopian fantasy kind of story, basically set in this world where the king is absolutely awful, like to the point that his sons don't like him. And so we follow basically two main characters. We follow Anza, who is part of the rebellion. She's a young student in the city, and then Prince Asvar, who is the second son of the king, who is literally just waiting around for the king to die so that his older brother can take over the throne and kind of be a better king than his dad was. And then the book kind of kicks off with Anza finding this journal that belonged to the queen that has vanished, but everyone kind of knows that like her husband, the king, has killed her. It's been many years, so it sounds like a dystopian in the sense of like there is a really bad ruler in charge, but I made it about 30% of the way through. But I did love this cover. It was very beautiful. Next book is a pre-order that came in, and that is the Sizzle Paradox by Lily Menon. This is her most recent book that came out earlier this year, and I love me some adult romance, so I am very excited that she has started writing more. This is her second adult book. She primarily wrote YA before that, so I've loved that she's been, you know, stepping into the adult romance section. This follows Lyric Bishop, who is kind of having a hard time. She's a grad student, and her grad paper, or her like thesis, is all about the science behind like love and why people fall in love and stuff like that, and she's had like almost no luck with it. So her best friend slash roommate, Kian, I believe is how you pronounce his name, he's a fellow grad student, is always been fine with getting, you know, a girlfriend. Has no problem getting love, and so he decides to kind of like help her out, give her some tips, help her fall in love, find that person, so that A, she can be happy, but B, for her thesis and how like she can complete that and like maybe actually graduate. But you know that's not how it's going to work, and it's going to end romantically, and things are going to get tangled. So I have, again, loved everything that I've read by this author, and I just get so excited when she has new books out. So yes, I pre-ordered this, and it is in my hands, and I love it. The next one, well, the next couple, actually, are from a Barnes & Noble trip that I took with my best friend, Lauren. We went up last month, kind of around, I think it was around the 4th, and hung out with kind of like our college little cohort, and obviously there was a coupon, and my friends and I did not go, so we went and did the things. So the book that I picked up is actually one that she put on my radar, which I find very humorous, but that is Being Mary Bennett by J.C. Peterson, and it says up here, from perfectly tolerable to the perfect protagonist. So this is a YA book, and I know that, like I've been saying recently, like I'm not a huge fan of YA, but it had Jane Austen vibes. I mean, that's like the exception. I'm not entirely sure how old our main character is, because it talks about her roommate in the synopsis, which to me is not something you have when you're in high school. That's a college thing. So I'm not sure how old she is, but we'll find out when I read. But we follow our main character, Marnie Barnes, who has always thought that she is the protagonist of her story. She is the Lizzie Bennett of her life. And then a lot of crazy shenanigans happen, and she's forced to discover that she's not Lizzie. She's actually Mary Bennett, the forgotten middle child. And she's like, no, we're not doing that. And so she is like set to reinvent herself. And so it says that there's going to be like, there's a cute boy, there's her best friend is helping her out. She's going to rewrite her life. So it seems almost coming of age. Again, I'm not 100% sure how old our main character is, but I loved this cover. Again, Jane Austen vibes, need I say more? So yeah, hopefully we'll get to this one at some point. It's giving me fall vibes, and I'm not 100% sure why, because there's literally nothing about the story that screams fall. But we might be reading this one in the fall. I don't know. It's giving me the vibes. But yes, I picked this one up with a coupon because of course I did. And then I did also pick up a middle grade book, and that is The Deceivers, which is the second in the Greystone Secrets series by Margaret Patterson Haddix. I read the first one, I don't remember when I read it, if it was this year or last year, but I read it relatively recently, and it basically follows three kids, Chess, Emma, and Flynn, and they are the Greystone siblings. And in the first book, we follow them at a time where there is a news article that comes out, and three kids that I think looks like them, but have their same first and middle names, go missing. Same ages, same everything else. The only thing that's different is her last name. And so they're like, what is going on? And their mom kind of like goes on a work trip, and so they're trying to figure out what the heck is happening. And it takes some turns, just like the other series by Margaret Patterson Haddix, the Found series. I adored the first one. I thought it was so good. And so this is the second one. I had to get it. I mean, of course I did. And I believe the third one is out right now, and that is called The Messengers. I'm not sure if that's the end of the series or if there's going to be more, but I have the second one now, so I can actually continue with the series because I loved the first one so much. And I don't know why I stopped. Like, I need to keep going. So I now have the second one in hopes that I will actually continue the series, because I have, like, I loved the first one so much. It's so trippy. It's so awesome. It has all the turns you want. And I need to know what happens. The next one is another pre-order that came in that you've already seen because I've already read it as of recording this, and that is the second volume of Velour Olympus by Rachel Smith. This is a web comic that has been put into physical format. You can read everything on the free app Webtoon, which is a great app. I highly recommend. But this is just the continuation from the first volume, which basically follows Hades and Persephone. It's a retelling, a modernized retelling. They are gods and goddesses, so it's not like they've made it a contemporary retelling, but it is modernized, and basically Persephone comes to Olympus because she's going to school and ends up somehow getting an internship with Hades, because Hera sees that Hades has some interest in her and is like, I'll throw you a bone, you need some love in your life. And so she goes and works with Hades, and that is literally all I know about this, and that is like the first 2 volumes of the book, so I have no idea where we're going to go, but I adore it. The art in this book is just absolutely beautiful. I mean, I just keep showing it off because, like, I don't know how you could not be obsessed with this artwork. I am. And, like, just all the colors and stuff is just so fun. And I'm excited to see where this continues. I have no idea when the next volume's going to come out. Probably not for another year or so. But obsessed. So, the next book is my June adult Unplugged book. It was back-ordered a lot. There was some issues with some of the stuff in the box, but it finally came. I did unbox it. I'll leave that linked above, as always, if you'd like to check that out. But here's your warning that I'm about to show you what that is, and it's one that I was so excited about. I knew it was coming. Like, that was one of the books that I'd actually, I'm very rarely spoiled for books, but this one I was actually spoiled for. And I was so excited because I was going to buy this myself. And that is Her Majesty's Royal Coven, and this is by Juno Dawson. This is going to be perfect this fall. I am so excited. But I've seen a lot of people who live in the UK reviewing this book, which I found very helpful because there's a lot of things based on the UK like system that I would have never guessed, but I'm getting ahead of myself. This book follows this coven that's called Her Majesty's Royal Coven, which was started way back with Anne Boleyn. And as I have found out, the HMRC is actually the like tax bureau in the UK. So same initials kind of thing, and it's just they've put it like a witchy twist on it. But the book starts with 4 girls who take their oath to join the magical coven. Sorry, it was started by Queen Elizabeth. I don't know why I thought it was Anne Boleyn. Queen Elizabeth I. It's a covert government department, and I believe it's to help, like, people with magical powers. And so now, decades later, the witch community is still reeling from a civil war, and the high priest, and one of these girls is the high priestess, and a lot of the girls, a couple of them have like gone away, and they're like, we don't really want this magical life, and one of them has broken off and kind of gone towards the more dark side of stuff. And this sounds, like it kicks off because there is a young warlock with extraordinary powers that is brought into the open. So I believe this is going to be a trilogy, if I remember correctly, but I love everything British. So I've heard that if you're from the UK, a lot of this, you'll enjoy it a lot more because, like, a lot of the places in here will make more sense to you. I just like everything British, English, from the UK, Scottish, like that entire world, everything about that makes me very excited. So I think I'm going to really enjoy this, but I'm glad I saw some of those reviews because I would not have realized how much ties in to the local, like, UK system. But I am so excited about this. This looks awesome. I actually, for the first time and maybe ever, prefer this US cover to the UK cover. just because it looks like more fun. I know the eyeball's kind of creepy, but like it just looks like more fun, and all the witchy vibes, and the fact that it was started by a monarch that I love reading about, that time period, so that just makes me very excited. So I am just, can you tell how excited I am? Because I am so excited to read this book. So hopefully soon. So the next two books are from the June Fairy Loot. They did have 2 books this month, which again, they might tell us. I just don't ever actually like look at what's going to be in books, or going to be in the boxes. So I'll leave that unboxing above if you'd like to check it out. Again, your warning if you are 2 months behind and don't want to know what's in the box. So the first one, which was the extra book that they gave us, was one that was already on my TBR, which never happens. I rarely, like the second book that come in Fairy Loot boxes are usually the books that I have never heard of before. But I've actually heard of this one, and that is Twin Crowns. Oh, you cannot see that very well. And this is by Catherine Weber and Catherine Doyle. It says 1 throne, 2 princesses, and it's just this beautiful gold foil. The side is stunning. I mean, everything about this is stunning. It is signed as well by both of the authors. But I had seen this circling on the Bookstagram a little bit when it came out, because it did come out a couple of months ago, I believe. And I saw some kind of like, some people posting about it, talking about it, that if you like this book, you like this book, and that kind of stuff. But it just sounds really good. And so I kind of put it on my TBR, and then it came in the box, and I was completely shocked, honestly. But it sounds good. So I'm just going to read you the back since it's so short. I think that's going to be better than me trying to explain this. So it says here that Princess Rose of Valhart is heir to the throne of Iana. I think that's how it's pronounced. Trained from birth to fear the witches that killed her parents, she will do anything to defend her kingdom. Stolen from a place of birth, Wren Greenrook is the secret sister no one knows about. She plots to usurp the princess in order to protect the witches of Ortha who raised her. So it sounds very good. It's got these 2 sisters fighting against each other. It's quite thick comparatively. It's not really, well, it's about 500 pages, so that's relatively thick as far as books go. Oh, it looks like it's in dual perspective, which is exciting, and it is the first in the series. We've got a little coming soon, the second one. But it sounded really good. I've heard people talk about it, and so I just kind of put it on my TBR. So that was the kind of like extra book that we got in the month. And then the book that we got I had not heard of, which is not really that surprising, and that is This Vicious Grace, and this is by Emily Feed, and it says, her gift can save or it can kill. Beautiful, absolutely stunning cover. It's very yellow, which is not a problem. It's just not like, I feel like yellow, like this kind of yellow is not very common. I mean, I do see a lot of yellow books, but like this, I don't know, it just feels very bright. In a good way, of course. So this is giving me all of the Greek myth vibes. I don't know if it's actually based on anything Greek mythology wise, but just the cover and like everything about this sounds very Greek mythy. So we follow our main character, Alessa, and she has a gift from the gods that's supposed to magnify her partner's magic, but instead she ends up killing all of the suitors she touches. And so there's only weeks left before a swarm of demons devours her island home, and she's kind of freaking out because she's trying to find a partner and hoping that like will save everything. And then a powerful priest convinces everyone, it says the faithful, that killing her is the island's only hope. So she hires this guy named Dante, who is a cynical outcast marked as a killer, to be her bodyguard. And then I'm thinking that like the 2 of them will probably fall for each other. So yes, giving me all the Greek vibes. I'm not sure when I'll get to this, but this sounds very good. Giving all the like just like general mythology vibes as well. Maybe not necessarily just Greek myth, but like all of those fairy tale-y kind of vibes. But I'm excited, and so far Fairy Loot has not steered me wrong. So I'm excited about that. Okay, the next 5 are books that I bought from my friend Taylor. She was unhauling a bunch of stuff, and she had a lot of contemporary romances and things that I've had my eye on for quite a while. So I was very excited and snatched all of them up. So the first one is Accidentally Engaged, and this is by Farah Heron. It says here, is this fake engagement foolproof or half-baked? I don't remember exactly what this is about, but obviously we've got fake dating, which is all I really need to know. Follow our main character, Rena, I believe, and she is a baker, but she loves what she's doing, but her parents are meddling in her lives and trying to get her married off. And so this guy who lives right across the hall from her, his name is Nadim. He works with her father, and her parents, of course, present him as an option, and she's like, absolutely not. I mean, he's perfect, but you gave him to me. I don't want that. But then a baking competition comes up, and it's only for couples, and it says it has the prize of her dreams. I'm not sure what that is, but they end up pretending to be engaged to do this competition. This is giving me fake dating vibes, which I love, but it's also giving me that I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. This is going to show so much about me. I am obsessed with like Hallmark movies, especially at Christmas, but like the Netflix style kind of Hallmark movies that have been coming out have been fantastic, and this is giving me like The Princess Switch with Vanessa Hudgens in it, those kinds of vibes. Probably just because there's a baking competition, but I have had this on like my Amazon wish list for such a long time, and it just sounded interesting. Honestly, it was fake dating, that's all I needed to know. But this sounds great, and I might have to say this for Christmas, even though it's not a Christmas book, but the baking competition is giving me all the Christmas vibes because of that movie. So, I'm excited about this. Oh, literally, anything with fake dating in it, and like, I'm in. You've hooked me. The next one that I picked up from my lovely friend, is The Flipside, and this is by James Bailey. This is another contemporary romance. I swear, like, contemporary romances with these illustrated covers get me every time. But this one follows a guy named Josh who is kind of suffering from what he's calling a quarter-life crisis. His long-term girlfriend just broke up with him, he lost his job, and he's moved back in with his parents. And he's like, all my planning, all this like careful planning I've done for my life has done nothing. And so he decides to start flipping a coin to make decisions. And turns out okay, so he keeps doing it. And so obviously there's going to be a relationship. There's a girl in the background, I don't know who she is. But like, there's going to be a relationship, and this coin flipping is going to get him into it, and then like it's going to end disastrously, and I cannot wait for him to fall in love. This just sounds so much fun. It's also very much set in Bristol, specifically in England, and so, like I was saying earlier, love me some British books. So this sounds good, just for like a fun contemporary romance, which I'm always kind of in the mood for. The last, not from my friend, but the last of the contemporary romances from her is No Offense by Meg Cabot. I have seen this many times at my local used bookstore and almost picked it up. I've heard mixed things, I think, about this when it came out, but honestly, it just sounded so good, and it revolves around a librarian. I mean, what could be better? We follow Molly, who, due to a lot of falling outs and like a string of bad luck, she decides to take her dream job in the Florida Keys and is now the Little Bridge Island Public Library's head of children's services. And then one night, this is where it gets a little crazy. Then one night, a newborn is left in the library restroom, and so the local sheriff comes in to investigate, and he is insisting that whoever left this baby is a criminal. And so obviously it's a relationship between the two of them. He just got out of a divorce. He's discovering how to be a single father, things like that. So it's got all of the levels. I've never actually read anything by Meg Cabot, and honestly, I bought this and I'm like, if I love it, I'm going to pass it on to my friend Lauren because she's a librarian, and I just feel like she would enjoy this. But it just sounded good. I've had my eye on it for a while. I thought I'd give it a shot. Next one I picked up from her is An Enchantment of Ravens, and this is by Margaret Rogerson. I recently read, what was it, Sorcery of Thorns by her a couple of months ago, and this was her first book, and this one really intrigues me. So when I saw that she had it, I was like, let me just snap that up really quick. So we have Isabel, who is a prodigy portrait artist, and in this world, the fair folk are not allowed to have like emotions, I don't think, and so she ends up painting the Autumn Prince, but she paints sorrow into his eyes, which is considered a weakness. So he basically like is super angry and like spirits her away to his realm to like face the consequences, like a trial kind of thing. Obviously there's going to be a relationship between the two of them. I love fae. I love all things fae, elf, fair folk, whatever you want to call mythical creatures like that. I love it. So I definitely enjoyed the Sorcery of Thorns book. It wasn't the most amazing thing I've ever read, but I did enjoy the other book I read by her. So I'm very interested to see of how I feel about this. I feel like this is going to be like a good palate cleanser of sorts. I've heard that there's a lot of like sassy comments in here, and the snark between our two main characters is immaculate, which I do love in books. So I picked this one up for the author, and we'll see if I like it. And the very last one I picked up from her is one that I can't tell you how many times I have almost picked up somewhere and just never did. And that is The Lost Apothecary, and this is by Sarah Pinner. This is actually a Book of the Month version. Look how pretty. I don't actually know what month it was for. Let's find out. Ooh, March 2021. This cover just screams beautiful. And it gives me a lot of vibes of just a couple of books on my shelves that I have read recently. Not recently, but like I have read and really enjoyed. So I'm hoping this will be good. So this book, I wouldn't know this if I didn't already know the story, but I think it's actually based on real history. So it seems like it's a dual timeline. So we've got this apothecary shop, which is run by a woman named Nella, and she basically creates these potion tonic kind of things for oppressive men. I read that because the story in real life is it was an apothecary shop that marketed a bunch of like cosmetic kind of things to women, and they were just buying poison because like if they had really like aggressive husbands, or like their husbands would beat them, or like things like that, when you couldn't get out of marriages like that, they would use this to poison them and they would die and be free. But like also it poisoned them like super slowly. And so I'll see if I can find, it was a video by Bailey Sarian, so like if I can find that like true crime story, I'll leave it linked below because I remember what it was. But like that story basically feels like it's possibly what this one is based on. But so this woman is in charge of this store, and then a 12-year-old girl starts like showing up, I think maybe starts working there. And then it also says 200 years later, an aspiring historian named Caroline discovers the apothecary vial, and like that makes her go like deep dive. So I'm thinking it's dual timeline. But I've heard, well, you know what, I'm not sure I've heard anything about this book. I know it's been out for a while and I know people have read it, but I'm not sure I've actually seen reviews. So let me know if you like this book. But it just sounds great. I love that idea. And if it is in fact based on that story, that just makes it so much better. So I don't know. I'm usually not like the biggest fan of that dual timeline situation when it's so far in the past. But for some reason, this sounds really interesting. So I picked it up and I'm very excited to give it a try. The next book is 110% The Fault of Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction, because she recently got this book and it just got stuck in my head and I bought it. And that is Portrait of a Thief, and this is by Grace D. Lee, I believe. Barnes & Noble was doing their hardback sale, and I was looking at what was on sale, and they had this, and I was like, well, that's just a sign. Do I know what it's fully about? Yes and no. It's about an art thief. It's about a heist and art. That's all I know. I thought it had maybe like dark academia vibes in it, but I'm not 100% sure. It says Ocean's 11 meets The Farewell, and this lush lyrical heist novel inspired by a true story of Chinese art vanishing from Western museums, about dysphoria, the colonization of art, and the complexity of the Chinese American identity. Well, that just sold me on it. So I don't know like details about it because it's got a very long synopsis there, but that's really all I know about it, and that sounds amazing. I want to know more. It reminds me of, what was that movie? The Monuments Men, I think, where it was like all those men who like went to go get art back from the Nazis because they stole it during World War II. That just gives me these kinds of vibes. I didn't realize that it was based on a true story, which I love. I love when things are based on true stories. And I also didn't realize that it was specifically like a terrible thing like this in history where like they stole Chinese art. Like how awful is that? So now this just sounds really interesting. And I love a good heist book. I love a good heist movie. I'm sure I'm gonna love a great heist book. So does my husband, so I need to read this to see if this would be something that he would also enjoy. But yeah, this feels like a fall book as well. So we might be reading this one soon. Next 5 things are all part of the same series, and that is the rest of the Descender volumes. So I have 2 through 6 here, because I read the first one, if you remember, last month. It was part of my most recent episode of BookTube Made Me, where I read books because of G from Book Roast. And I read the first one in the series because she raves by this, and absolutely, utterly adored it, so I bought all of them. There's not very many though, which I like usually series are like so long, and this one's only 6. I mean, there are 4 of a different series that's kind of like a continuation, so like in reality there's like 10 total, but there's only 6 in this one. And I am planning, as you guys know, to read the second one this month. but I love it. It's a sci-fi adventure story. It follows this little robot named Timma21, and he was created to be a companion robot, which is exactly what it sounds like. He was created to hang out with young kids. Usually, he looked like a kid, so it was about the same age, and basically be their friends. And so he's sent to hang out with this boy. He becomes really invested in their family. And then at the time, there are these big robots that show up and just start destroying everything. And so he ends up being put to sleep, and he wakes up when everything has gone to crap. And there's like a code in him that is similar to the code in these big monsters that came and destroyed everything. So he is being hunted by a bunch of different people for a bunch of different reasons. And so it's this small like group that have come to kind of collect him, protect him, that kind of stuff. And so we continue. I'm not sure where the story's going to go because I haven't read this one yet, but I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be great, although all of these covers are very creepy. I mean, the third volume, what is that? Like, I know he's not human, so he's a robot, but like, that's terrifying. Why does he have a skull underneath? Anyway, creepy, but I just was so obsessed with the first one that I could see myself binging this one so easily. So I wanted to have them all ready for when I do that, inevitably. But yeah, so 2 through 6, I have the entire rest of the series, and I am not at all upset by that. And then the very last book was a gift. It was a late birthday gift from a family member, and that is a lady's guide. I almost said the name wrong. A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem, and this is by Amanda Collins. The funny thing about this is there's a sequel to this that I almost picked up at Target like a few months ago, but then I realized it was a sequel, so I didn't pick it up because I wanted to read the first one. I'm thinking these are very similar like companion novels because it is based on like, it looks like it's a historical romance. It says on the front, of all the crime scenes in all the world, she walked into his twice. What is that a line from? Oh, that's from something. So this is murder mystery meets historical romance, and I could not be more excited. So our main 2 characters are a newspaper columnist, Lady Catherine Bascom, and Detective Inspector Andrew Eversham. So she, like I said, is a columnist, and so she writes these columns, and one of them, her latest one, leads to the arrest of a bunch of murders plaguing London. And so this investigator is like, how dare you? You're a woman. You shouldn't be doing all of this stuff, blah, 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 blah. And so she ends up going to the country to try to get away and immediately witnesses a murder. And so then this specific detective is the one that ends up being the one in charge of it, and he's so against her because like her meddling the first time almost cost him his job. He can't believe that she's here again, and she kind of like twists her way into this murder investigation, and then he kind of sees that she has good insight and actually like he should listen to her. Weird, I know. I don't remember what the second one's about, but that's what this one's about. I love everything about this. We have historical fiction, we have historical romance, we have a murder mystery. It sounds like fun. Also beautiful illustrated cover. So thank you so much to the family member. It's actually Chris's aunt, so thank you so much. As a birthday gift, I love this so much. You know me so well. And now I can actually get the second one, because like, well, I should probably read this one first, but then I can get the second one. So yeah, more historical romance to add to the never-ending shelf of historical romance with illustrated covers, because that's just what this shelf has become at this point. Like literally from here on, I'm not at all upset. And that's it. Those are all of the books that I have acquired in some way in the month of July. It did seem like a lot, but there wasn't actually that many compared to like last month. That was a little ridiculous. And I have read like a good chunk of these I bought to read, and then some of them I've just read, and some of them are like I'm preparing for the fall. Like I've got that fall TBR. I'm preparing for what we're going to be getting into. So I hope that you guys enjoyed. As always, please let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in today's video, what your thoughts on them were, or if there's something fun that you have picked up in the last couple of months. I would love to know what you guys are excited about. And if you want to comment something but you're not sure what to comment because I'm seeing it, comment an umbrella. Isn't that fun? But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you'd like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there as well as other fun bookish links, so don't forget to check all of that out, and I'll see you guys in my next video.